We've had dogs by our side for thousands of years. They're family. But what if I told you we're getting their feelings completely wrong? In this explainer, we're going to dive into the science of decoding what our dogs are actually trying to tell us. I mean, think about it. You see that look, that little tail wag? You think you know exactly what's going on in their head. But do you really? Do you truly understand the emotion behind it all? The answer? Well, it might just surprise you. Look, our bond with dogs is ancient, forged over millennia, and yet our understanding is often deeply flawed. Why? Because we can't help but see them through a very human lens, and that, right there, is where the trouble really begins. All right, so here is our game plan. We'll kick things off with our cherished but misunderstood bond. Then we'll unpack a fascinating study that shows why context isn't the whole story. We'll cover the surprisingly high stakes of getting it wrong, learn how the pros speak dog, and finally talk about how we can all move beyond our own human assumptions. So why do we get it wrong so often? It's definitely not for a lack of trying or a lack of love. The problem is a little psychological shortcut our brains take. It feels completely natural, but it often leads us way off course. That shortcut has a big name, anthropomorphism, but all it really means is our tendency to project our own very human feelings and motivations onto our dogs. You know the drill. Your dog rips up the couch and you see that classic guilty look. Or they pee on the rug and you think, oh, they're doing that for revenge. But are they really? This single assumption is at the very heart of our communication breakdown. Now let's see how this plays out in the real world. A recent study from Arizona State University wanted to test just how much we rely on our assumptions versus, what the dog is actually doing. So here's how they did it. They showed people videos of dogs in different situations, like an owner grabbing a leash for a walk or a scary vacuum cleaner suddenly firing up. But here's the clever part. They sometimes swapped the context. They'd show a dog's leash reaction, but tell the viewer it was seeing the vacuum, and the other way around. And the results were fascinating. The dog's actual behavior, the tail wagging, the alert ears, was identical in both scenarios. But when people were told the context was a leash, they saw excitement. When they were told it was a vacuum cleaner, they saw anxiety. They were judging the situation, not the dog at all. This just perfectly illustrates the study's conclusion, and one of the researchers, Holly Molinaro, summed it up so well. She said, people do not look at what the dog is doing. Instead, they look at the situation surrounding the dog. We're reading the room, not the animal in it. And that confirms a huge gap in our ability to really understand our best friends. So, you misread your dog sometimes. What's the big deal, right? Well, in professional settings, like in a vet clinic or with a dog trainer, the stakes are incredibly high. Misinterpreting a dog's fear as just being stubborn can cause a whole cascade of problems. It can lead to elevated stress, it can compromise safety for everyone involved, the handlers and the dogs, and it can even lead to misdiagnoses in clinics. It can make training totally ineffective, and maybe worst of all, it can seriously break that fundamental trust between a dog and a human. Getting that emotional assessment right is absolutely fundamental, pretty much across the board. Whether it's for behavioral assessments, creating training programs that actually work, or just evaluating an animal's overall welfare, understanding the emotion correctly is the critical first step. Okay, so if our human intuition is so flawed, how do professionals get a more accurate picture? Well, they trade in those assumptions for objective tools. Let's take a look at how they really learn to speak dog. Experts use a kind of three-pronged approach to get past their own biases. First, they observe the dog's body. Second, they actually measure what's happening on the inside. And third, they're starting to use some really cool new technology. Let's break this down a little. For body observation, they use what are called ethograms. These are basically standardized checklists for specific behaviors, like lip licking or tail carriage. To measure what's happening internally, they might use things like heart rate variability monitors, or test saliva for the stress hormone cortisol. And with the new tech, infrared cameras can show stress through temperature drops in a dog's nose, while AI is even being trained to spot tiny micro-expressions of fear or aggression. Pretty wild, right? So what does all of this mean for us, for the everyday dog owner? Well, it means we need a pretty fundamental shift in how we approach our best friends. It's about moving beyond what we just think they feel. We really need to train ourselves to move from these subjective assumptions to objective observation. So instead of asking yourself, is my dog happy right now? Try asking, what is my dog's body doing right now? Look at their ears, their tail, their posture. You have to become a student of your dog's unique language. By setting aside our human-centric view and learning to observe what's actually there, we can deepen our bond and truly begin to understand them on their own terms. So the next time you look at your dog, ask yourself, what are they really trying to tell you?